Welcome to another episode of my introductory R series. Today we're going to learn how to add adjectives and adverbs, which are not exciting even if you are learning a language, but it becomes even less exciting when there's math involved. But I promise you, we're going to make pretty pictures. Pretty plots? That sounds fun, right?
Today, we're going to modify some arguments in basic code. We're going to make and modify some plots, including changing colors. We're going to add lines to things. We're going to use the question mark to find help, help being a somewhat limited term. And we are going to save a plot using export plots. It's going to be graphics. I can't guarantee it's going to be pretty, but there will be bright colors, and that's the best I can do.
I'm out in the middle of the Wenatchee National Forest with a whole lot of bugs that are really invested in landing on me. I like this area a lot. It's full of dead trees, but that does mean that the sun meets the ground, and we have all of these beautiful, beautiful wildflowers, which is why we also have all of these bugs. I'm not a wildflower. I know my hair's purple, but I smell like DEET.
So to start, you do have to summon forth the iris dataset like an ancestral ghost that is locked inside your machine. You do have to wrangle it with a name. We're going to be modifying this sentence. Hist iris $ sepal length, which we ran in the last episode. Now this does make a very basic plot, but it's pretty ugly.
So let's start with color. Obviously, gonna be into color. Let's go ahead with blue though today. So to make it colorful, you just have to add an argument. So you write a comma, then you write call equals, C-O-L. Presumably they didn't include the full word so that both Americans and British people could spell it correctly. So it's call equals, and then in quotation marks, blue, purple, magenta, medium sea green. There's a lot of colors that R knows.
Go ahead and use hex colors if you like. Just make sure to put the pound sign, aka the hashtag sign, in front of your hex code. Otherwise it will not know what it's doing, and it does still have to go in quotation marks.
Super pretty, right? So we kind of need to make sure that the names actually match. See, the thing about arguments for functions is that if you don't change them, they have an automatic setting. And the automatic setting for your X and Y label axes are pretty ugly, right? So to change your X and Y label axes, you're going to use the xlab argument. So that's xlab equals, and then in quotation marks, write whatever you want your name of your axis to be. It's the same for your Y axis. You use ylab. Weirdly enough, that's not what you do to change the title. The title is also pretty ugly here. It's got a default. You use main equals. That's your argument. I don't know who thought that main was like the super obvious way of naming an argument, but
all right, now that is a beautiful plot, but we're going to go ahead and make it just a little bit prettier. So we've made a complex sentence, but in R you can often stack these sentences. For example, histogram works really great with abline or abline. It doesn't really matter how you say it, but it does not actually add a set of abs to your plot. It does, however, add a vertical line or a horizontal line or even a line at an angle. I know, pretty exciting. We're going to just go ahead and we're going to start with a vertical line, which means that the argument that we're going to use inside of this verb is v equals, and let's just go with 5. If you run that, you will have a line at 5. However, make sure that you run this whole paragraph together, because if you don't, sometimes R forgets that there was a plot it was supposed to add things to, and you will get an error message. So that did actually make a line. It's just sometimes hard to see. So use LWD equals 2. That's line width, and that will make it thicker, and now you can see it.
wow, I'm sure you're saying. It looks like these functions have a lot of different arguments. I bet I can customize the shit out of this plot. And you're right, they do. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a place where it stored what you could change? There is. And you access it using the question mark. It's like the Clippy of R. You type question mark, your function, you run it, just like any other chunk of code, and up pops what we will loosely term the help documentation. Go ahead and read through it. It's so helpful, right? Yeah, sometimes this help documentation can be really difficult to read, and there are functions that I've used for literally years, and I'm still not actually sure what all of the arguments do. But there is one really great way of demonstrating to yourself what these arguments do, even if the help function doesn't help you. Science? Experimentation? You plug them in one at a time and see how they change things. This is especially easy with plots because there's usually a visible change, right? So here are a couple of different arguments. I want you to put one in, take it out, put the other in, take it out, and see how that changes your plot.
This one changes border color, but the other two, they change how the bins are placed and they change the bin number for your histogram.
Every single function in R actually has this help documentation. So let's use this with the abline function. This one's even worse. As far as help documentation goes, it's really not very helpful. But there is one in here that is one of my favorites, and so I'm going to have you use it and see what it does. It's the LTY argument. So go ahead and type LTY equals 2. And because it's a number, you don't have to put it in quotation marks.
You can also use call to change the color. Now with all of those things in there, you can see changing LTY makes dashes.
Wow, that's a beautiful plot. It's time to export it so that you can hang it on your wall and admire it for all time, or burn it, depending on how you currently feel about this program. So you're going to click the Export Plot button, save as image, change the image type if you like, and then there's something that says Directory. Now, if you don't want to have your plot be jettisoned off into the depths of your computer, I suggest clicking Directory so that you actually know where it's going. Name it whatever you like, save it, and there you go. Gorgeous.
And that is the end of this episode. Play around with different colors and different line options because nothing makes you understand R a little bit better than changing visually different options. It really is a good way of learning. In our next episode, we are going to do some nested functions. Has nothing to do with birds.